I never thought I'd be left out in my own family. But there I was, standing alone with nothing but memories of a life I built. At 65, I thought I had everything I needed. I had my farm, my family, and the love that I thought would last forever. But life has a way of throwing the unexpected at you. One night, the fire took it all. My farm, my home, my sanctuary, all reduced to ashes. I stood there, looking at the charred remains, the place where I had spent countless hours, raised my children, and built my dreams. The smoke still lingered in the air, as if the fire was still burning in my heart. I thought about calling my son, but what was the point? I knew what they would say. The same thing they had been saying for the past few months. You're a burden. That's what they told me. My own son, my own flesh and blood, telling me I was a burden. I had always done everything for them. But now, after the fire, they turned their backs on me. The next day, my son showed up, but not to offer help. No, he came to take what little was left. Mom, you can't live here anymore. You'll have to figure something out, he said, his voice cold and detached. I felt my heart shatter in that moment. How could they do this to me? How could they just cast me aside like this? I had given them everything, and now I was nothing more than an inconvenience. I watched as they packed up what remained of the farm, taking it away piece by piece, like vultures picking at a carcass. My daughter-in-law, standing by his side, didn't even look at me. She just gave me that cold, smug smile that I had grown so accustomed to. You're homeless now. I hope you've made arrangements, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. I wanted to scream, to tell them how unfair they were being. But instead, I just stood there, frozen, the weight of the situation sinking in. I had no one left. The family I had loved and cared for my whole life had abandoned me. The farm, my life's work, was gone. I was homeless, alone, with nothing but the clothes on my back. But I wasn't going to let this be the end of my story. No, I wasn't going to let them win. I had lived through too much to let them destroy me now. I knew I had to do something, but what? As I sat on the steps of the old farmhouse, thinking about my next move, something came to me. A name from my past. A name I never thought I would need to rely on again. Liam Caldwell. A billionaire I used to babysit when he was a child. He had promised me once, all those years ago, that if I ever needed help, I could call on him. At the time, I never imagined I would be in such a situation, but here I was, with no one else to turn to. So, I picked up the phone and dialed the number I had memorized all those years ago. It rang 3 times before a voice answered. Hello. His voice was familiar, but I hadn't heard it in decades. Liam? It's me, Charlotte. I know this might sound strange, but I need your help. I could hear him pause, then the sound of him sitting up straighter. Charlotte? Is everything okay? He asked, concern lacing his voice. I took a deep breath and told him everything. The fire, the betrayal, the loss of everything I had worked for. I don't know where to go. My family won't help me. I have nowhere left, I said, my voice breaking. There was a long pause on the other end. And then, finally, he spoke. I remember you, Charlotte. You were always kind to me when I was a kid. I won't let you suffer. I'll help you. Those words, those simple words, were the first shred of hope I had felt in days. Liam Caldwell, the man I had once cared for, was offering me a lifeline. Maybe, just maybe, things were going to turn around. But I wasn't going to forget what my family had done to me. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. They had taken everything from me, but I was going to get it back. And Liam Caldwell was going to help me. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The phone call with Liam felt like a lifeline thrown to me in the middle of a storm. I had spent days just sitting, staring at the burnt remains of my life. But now, with a single phone call, I was beginning to see a glimmer of hope. Liam was a man of his word, and even after all these years, his kindness had not faded. I remember you, Charlotte, he had said, his voice warm with familiarity. You were always there for me when I needed someone. It had been so long since I'd heard those words that made me feel valued. For the first time in days, I didn't feel completely alone. I'll help you, he had promised. And help me, he did. The next morning, a car arrived at the edge of my property. A sleek, black car I could never afford. The driver got out, looking like someone straight out of a high-class magazine. He handed me a card, and all it said was, Liam Caldwell is waiting for you. I stood there for a moment, staring at the card, unsure of what to do. My hands shook slightly, but I knew I had no other option. My family had abandoned me, my home was gone, and now it was time to take whatever chance I had left. The car ride was quiet, the driver focused on the road. I kept my thoughts to myself, wondering how my life had come to this. I had spent so many years taking care of others, making sure my family was happy, that I never imagined I would be in this situation. The city looked different from inside that car. Tall buildings, shiny streets, a far cry from the dirt roads and the open fields of my farm. It was hard to believe that just a few days ago, I had been walking those fields, feeling at home in the simplicity of it all. Now, everything was different. The car pulled up in front of a massive, modern building. It was sleek and cold, much like the city around it. I hesitated for a moment before stepping out. A man in a suit opened the door for me, and I stepped inside. The lobby was grand, with marble floors and glass walls. It was nothing like the old farmhouse I had known, but it was a place where I could rebuild, where I could find something new. Liam's office was on the top floor. I was escorted up in an elevator. That moved so smoothly, I barely felt it. When the doors opened, I was met with a view that took my breath away. The whole city stretched out before me, and for a moment, I could almost forget about the fire, the loss, and the betrayal. Liam stood at the window, looking out over the skyline. He turned when he heard the elevator doors open, his face lighting up in a smile that felt so familiar. "Charlotte," he said, his voice warm, and for a second, it felt like no time had passed at all. He walked over and gave me a firm handshake. "I'm glad you made it." I smiled back, though my heart was still heavy. "I don't know what to say," I admitted, the weight of my situation still sinking in. "You don't have to say anything," he replied, his tone kind and reassuring. "I just want to help." He led me to a seat and offered me a drink. I declined, not knowing how to act in this grand, unfamiliar space. "I've been following your situation, Charlotte," Liam said as he sat across from me. "I know you've been through a lot, but you're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." His words were comforting, but the reality of it all still hit me. "Thank you, Liam. I don't know where I would be without your help." I looked down at my hands, the weight of the past few days still heavy on me. "I don't know how to move forward." Liam nodded, understanding. "That's why I'm here. We'll rebuild, step by step. And I'll be here with you every step of the way." There was something in his words that made me believe him. Something in the way he said it that made me think maybe, just maybe, I could get through this. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. My family had betrayed me, taken everything from me, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not now. Not ever. As Liam began outlining his plans to help me rebuild, I couldn't help but wonder about my family. Where were they now? What were they doing while I was sitting here, in this pristine office, receiving help from a man I hadn't seen in decades? They had abandoned me when I needed them most. And yet, here I was, getting a second chance. But the truth was, I wasn't sure what to do with that second chance. Could I ever forgive them? Could I rebuild my life and leave them behind? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let them define me anymore. It had been a week since I had come to Liam's office. A week since he promised to help me rebuild my life. And yet, the weight of what had happened still pressed heavily on me. The city outside his office window was bright and bustling, but inside, everything felt still. I sat in the plush chair, the silence between us heavy with unspoken thoughts. Liam had already arranged for a small place for me to stay while things got sorted out. It wasn't much, just a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, but it was mine. For the first time in a long while, I had a roof over my head. But even as I settled into this new space, my mind kept wandering back to the same place, my family. I couldn't help but wonder how they were doing. Did they miss me? Or had they already moved on, living their lives without a second thought to the woman they had thrown away? It was a question that gnawed at me every day. I spent my first few nights in the apartment staring at the walls, the loneliness creeping in. The place felt so different from my old home, the one I had built with my own two hands. There was a sense of emptiness here, but it wasn't the same kind of emptiness I had felt when I stood in front of my burned-down farm. That kind of emptiness was the kind that made you feel like you were suffocating. This one was different. It was quiet, almost peaceful. The change in scenery was a relief, but it also made the distance from my family feel so much sharper. I knew I needed to move on. I couldn't keep dwelling on what they had done to me. But it wasn't easy. One afternoon, as I was sitting at the small kitchen table, the phone rang. I hadn't expected anyone to call, But when I saw the name on the screen, I froze. It was my son. Wade. The man who had turned his back on me when I needed him most. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at the phone for a long moment before finally picking it up. Hello. My voice was shaky, uncertain. There was a long pause on the other end, and then Wade's voice came through, distant and strained. Mom. I heard about the fire. I'm sorry. His words were flat, not at all what I had expected. Sorry. I repeated, almost laughing at the absurdity of it. That's it. Just sorry. He hesitated, and then I heard the sound of him clearing his throat. I know I haven't been the best son, he said, but I was hoping we could talk. I want to make things right. I felt a wave of anger rush over me, but I pushed it down. Make things right, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. You've already made your choices, Wade. You've already shown me where I stand. There was another pause. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. I know, Mom. I messed up. But this family, we're falling apart. I can't do this without you. Please, just come home. Let's fix this together. I felt a lump form in my throat. It was exactly what I had wanted to hear, but now it felt hollow. You don't get to fix things with a phone call, Wade, I said, my voice tight. You don't get to fix years of hurt with a few words. There was silence again, and then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. You don't need to say anything, Wade, I said, my tone final. I've already made my peace. I'm not going back. I'm not going to let you do this to me again. There was a long pause, and then I heard him sigh. I understand, Mom. I just hope one day you can forgive me. I didn't respond. I just hung up the phone. I wasn't sure if I would ever forgive him. Maybe one day, but not today. Not yet. The call left me with a mix of emotions. Part of me felt relieved, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But another part of me felt so conflicted. Could I really walk away from my family? Could I really just forget everything that had happened? I didn't have the answers. But one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let them control my life anymore. I had spent too many years trying to keep the peace, trying to hold everything together, but I couldn't do it anymore. I had to let go. The next day, I met Liam again. He had arranged a meeting with a lawyer to help me get back on my feet, to make sure that everything I had left was protected. The lawyer was kind, but there was an edge of professionalism in the way he spoke. He didn't know my story, but he was there to help me get what I deserved. It felt strange, sitting in that office, surrounded by papers and legal jargon. But as I looked at the documents in front of me, I felt a sense of empowerment. This was the first time in a long time that I felt like I was taking control of my life. I wasn't just going to let the fire and my family's betrayal define me. I was going to rebuild. Slowly, but surely, I would rebuild. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let my past dictate my future. It had been a few weeks since my conversation with Wade. I was still processing everything, still figuring out what it meant to rebuild my life. Liam had helped me find a place to stay, and the lawyer had made sure I had the legal support I needed to protect what little I had left. The apartment wasn't much, but it was mine. And every day, as I settled into this new life, I found a small piece of peace. It was different from the farm, but maybe that was a good thing. The truth was, I didn't need to be reminded of what I had lost. I had lived through it enough. I had no idea what to expect when Liam suggested we meet for lunch, but I agreed. When I arrived at the restaurant, he was already there, sitting at a table by the window. The sunlight streamed in, casting a warm glow on the polished wood floors. I sat down across from him, unsure of what was to come next. Liam smiled. And for a moment, everything felt like it was going to be okay. I know this has been hard on you, Charlotte, he said, his voice kind. But you don't have to do this alone. I want to help you get back on your feet. I nodded, unsure of what to say. I appreciated his words, but something inside me hesitated. I wasn't sure how to ask for help, not after everything that had happened. I appreciate everything you've done for me, I said, finally breaking the silence. But I don't know what to do next. I'm not sure where I fit in anymore. My family, they don't need me. And I can't keep depending on you. Liam looked at me thoughtfully. Charlotte, you've done enough for others in your life. You've given everything. Now it's your turn to take care of yourself. I felt my chest tighten at his words. They were exactly what I needed to hear, but it was hard to accept. I had always been the one to care for others. But now, as the reality of my situation sank in, I realized that I had to learn to put myself first. I've been trying to figure out what to do, I said quietly. But every time I think about moving forward, I just feel like I'm stuck. It's like there's something holding me back. Liam gave me a sympathetic smile. It's okay to feel that way. But the first step is accepting where you are. It's not about what's behind you anymore. It's about what's ahead. And I'm here to help you with that. His words hit me like a wave. Maybe he was right. Maybe I had been so focused on the past that I hadn't allowed myself to look ahead. You're not alone in this, Charlotte, he continued. I know it's been hard, but you have the strength to get through it. And you don't have to do it all at once. We'll take it step by step. We spent the next few hours talking about what came next. He made suggestions for rebuilding my farm, helping me see that there was still hope. It wasn't going to be easy, but I had a choice. I could choose to let everything fall apart, or I could choose to rebuild. The choice wasn't just about the farm. It was about my life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control over it. That evening, as I walked back to my apartment, I reflected on the conversation with Liam. It was strange to think that someone like him, someone so far removed from my world, was willing to help me. But I didn't want to dwell on that. I wanted to focus on what came next. I wasn't going to let my past define me. I was going to rebuild, step by step. As I opened the door to my apartment, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was ready to face it. I wasn't going to let the betrayal of my family, the fire, or the losses keep me down. I had survived worse, and I would survive this too. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly, reminding myself that this was just the beginning of something new, a new chapter. And no matter how hard it got, I wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not ever. It had been a few days since my meeting with Liam, and things were slowly starting to feel like they were moving in the right direction. The weight of my past was still there, but it didn't feel as heavy anymore. I had a place to stay, a plan to rebuild, and someone to help guide me through it. But the one thing I couldn't shake off was the thought of my family. Despite all they had done, a part of me still missed them. I still couldn't understand how they could just walk away from everything we had built together. The phone call with Wade had left me with so many mixed emotions, but I knew deep down that I couldn't keep dwelling on it. I had to move forward. One afternoon, as I was sitting at the kitchen table in my small apartment, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I stood up, hesitated for a moment, and then opened it. Standing in the doorway was Sage, my daughter-in-law. I couldn't believe my eyes. She looked different. There was a softness to her that I hadn't seen in years, and for a moment, I almost thought I had imagined it. Charlotte, she said, her voice tentative. I thought we should talk. I stood there, unsure of what to say. After everything that had happened, after the way she had treated me, I didn't know if I was ready for this. But I couldn't just shut the door in her face, could I? Slowly, I stepped aside, letting her in. I didn't expect you to come here, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Sage glanced around the apartment, taking in the modest surroundings. I know, she said softly. I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me, but I've been thinking a lot about everything, about what happened. I folded my arms across my chest, not sure if I wanted to hear what she had to say. You've been thinking? I asked, a little sharper than I meant to. After everything you did? Sage looked down at her feet for a moment, then met my gaze. I know I've hurt you, Charlotte. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. I've been wrong, and I can't change that. But I don't want to lose you. Her words caught me off guard. I wasn't sure how to respond. Was this the same woman who had, just months ago, called me a burden? The same woman who had dismissed me when I was at my lowest? You don't get to come in here and act like nothing happened, I said, trying to hold my ground. You abandoned me when I needed you. You and Wade both did. I was left with nothing. She nodded, her eyes brimming with guilt. I know, Charlotte, and I can't undo it. But I'm here now, and I want to make things right. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose my family. The words hung in the air between us. I had spent so much time thinking about how I would react if they ever came to me, apologizing. Part of me wanted to let them back in, to pretend like everything was okay. But another part of me knew that I couldn't just forget what had happened. I don't know if I can just forgive you, I said quietly. It's not that simple. You can't just show up here and expect things to go back to the way they were. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I know, Charlotte, and I don't expect that. I just want a chance to show you that I'm sorry, that I can be the daughter-in-law you deserve. I could see the sincerity in her eyes. It was hard to ignore, but at the same time, I felt a deep sense of hesitation. Could I really let go of the anger I had been holding on to for so long? Could I really open my heart to her again after everything? I don't know what to do with all of this, I admitted, my voice cracking. I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can let you back in after everything you and Wade have done. Sage reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she placed it on mine. Please, Charlotte, she said, her voice full of emotion. Give me a chance. I know I can't change the past, but I want to make things right. I want to be part of your life again. Please, don't shut me out. I looked at her hand on mine, feeling the weight of her words settle in my chest. I had spent so much time thinking about what they had done to me, about the pain and betrayal. But now, in this moment, I realized that I was the one holding on to it. I was the one keeping myself stuck in the past. Could I let go of that anger? Could I forgive them? Or was it too late for that? I didn't know the answer. Not yet. But as I looked into Sage's eyes, I saw a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the first step toward healing. Maybe it was time to stop living in the past and start moving forward. Slowly, one step at a time. The days that followed Sage's visit were filled with uncertainty. I hadn't made up my mind about what to do yet. The conversation still lingered in my thoughts, and I found myself reflecting on it at odd moments. Could I really forgive her? Could I trust her again after everything that had happened? My mind kept circling back to the same questions. I didn't know if I was ready to let go of the past, but as I spent more time in this new chapter of my life, I realized that I couldn't keep living in the shadow of what had been. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, staring out the window at the city skyline. It was a view I had never imagined for myself, so different from the farm, so different from everything I had known. But in a strange way, it felt like it could be home. I had Liam's support, the legal backing to protect what was mine, and the opportunity to rebuild. But I still felt disconnected. It wasn't the life I had planned, and it wasn't the life I had imagined for my final years. But as I sat there, I realized something. I had a choice. I could keep holding on to the anger and pain of the past, or I could choose to let it go and embrace the future. It wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time, I felt like I had the power to choose. I knew what I needed to do. The next morning, I called Sage. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say, but I knew I had to talk to her. It felt like the right thing to do. When she picked up, there was a brief moment of hesitation on both sides before I spoke. Sage, I said, my voice steady. I've been thinking about our conversation. There was a pause on the other end. I understand, she replied. I know it's not easy, Charlotte. I just want to make things right. I'm not sure I can forgive you yet, I said honestly. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see if we can rebuild some kind of relationship. But it's going to take time. And it's going to take trust. Sage's voice cracked slightly. I understand. I'm not expecting everything to go back to how it was. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust. I took a deep breath. I need time. And I need you to understand that this isn't going to be easy. But I'm willing to try. That's all I can give right now. There was a long silence, and then I heard Sage's soft voice. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you for giving me a chance. It was a small step, but it felt like progress. I wasn't sure where this would lead, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was moving forward. After I ended the call, I sat quietly for a while, thinking about what had just happened. I had made the first step toward healing, toward rebuilding. I wasn't sure how it would go, but I knew that this was the right choice for me. As the days went by, things between Sage and I started to shift. There were awkward moments, of course, but there was something else too. A quiet understanding. Slowly, over time, I began to see a change in her. She was making an effort. She wasn't asking for forgiveness, but she was showing me that she wanted to make things right. And that, in itself, meant something. I had always believed that family was everything. But now, I was beginning to realize that family didn't just mean blood. It meant trust, respect, and the willingness to move forward together. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let the past define me anymore. I had learned that sometimes, the only way to move forward was to let go of the hurt and allow space for healing. And maybe, just maybe, with time, I could build something new. The farm was gone, and so were the years of memories tied to it. But I still had my life, and I still had the chance to create new memories. It wasn't easy, but I was ready to try. I wasn't alone anymore. I had Liam, I had Sage, and I had myself. And that was enough for now. The future was uncertain, But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was ready to face it. It had been a few weeks since the conversation with Sage, and I was still adjusting to the idea of letting her back into my life. It wasn't easy, but with every passing day, I began to feel the tight grip of the past start to loosen, even if just a little. My apartment was still small, but it felt like a place of new beginnings. I had made peace with the fact that I wasn't going back to the life I once knew. I wasn't going back to the farm. It was gone, and with it, a piece of my heart. But I wasn't ready to let my life end there. Slowly, I began rebuilding, one small step at a time. One morning, Liam called me. He had some news. "Charlotte," he said, his voice warm as always. "I've been working on something for you. I know you're not ready to dive back into everything, but I think I've found a way to help you get started again." I felt my heart race a little at the thought of him helping me rebuild, but I stayed calm. "What is it?" I asked. "I've been in touch with a few contacts," Liam explained. "We've got an opportunity to invest in a piece of land nearby. It's small, but it's a place you can start fresh, grow crops, raise animals, whatever you want. I think it's exactly what you need." The idea of starting over on a new piece of land was both exciting and terrifying. I wasn't sure if I was ready to go down that path, but at the same time, the thought of having something to hold on to, something that could ground me again, was tempting. "I don't know if I can handle that right now," I admitted, my voice tight. "It's a lot, Liam. The idea of taking on something like that. I'm not sure I have the strength for it." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, and then Liam's voice came back, steady and reassuring. "Charlotte, you don't have to do it alone. We'll take it slow. I'm here to help, every step of the way. You don't have to jump in full force right away. But it's an opportunity, and I think it's the right one for you." I took a deep breath, letting the idea sink in. Maybe he was right. Maybe I didn't have to do it alone. And maybe, just maybe, I could take this chance. It was a step toward reclaiming what I had lost. It wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be fast. But it was a start. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll consider it. But I need time to think about it. I'm not making any decisions today." "Of course," Liam replied, understanding. "Take all the time you need. Just know that the offer is there. Whenever you're ready, we'll make it happen." I hung up the phone, the weight of the decision still hanging over me. It felt like a big leap, but I also knew that I had to make some kind of decision. I couldn't keep standing still forever. The days passed, and I spent a lot of time thinking. Some nights, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was strong enough to take on something new, something that could either be a lifeline or another failure. But as the days went on, I realized that I couldn't keep waiting. I couldn't keep living in fear of the future. The only way out of this mess was through it. The morning I decided to act was bright and clear. The sun streamed through the windows of my apartment, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I picked up the phone and called Liam. "I'm ready," I said, my voice firm. "Let's do it." Liam's response was immediate. "That's great, Charlotte. We'll take it slow, like we talked about, but you're making the right choice. I'm proud of you." The words felt good. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that I was taking control of it. I wasn't just going to wait for things to happen. I was going to make them happen. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was a start. I packed up a few things, made some calls, and set things in motion. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a direction. I had always believed that life was about the people around you, about the family that you could depend on. But now, I understood that life was also about the strength inside of you. It was about finding a way to survive and thrive, no matter how hard things got. And with that strength, I was going to rebuild. It wasn't going to be the same as before, but it was going to be mine. And that was enough. The weeks passed quickly as I took the first steps toward rebuilding. I spent every spare moment learning, adjusting, and getting used to my new reality. It was strange at first, living in an apartment instead of my home, making decisions without the comfort of family around me. But slowly, I began to feel like I was on the right path. There were days when the weight of it all still felt overwhelming. The fire, the loss, the betrayal, it all still haunted me, sometimes even in my dreams. But in those moments, I would remember what Liam had said. "We'll take it slow, step by step." And I held on to that. I knew I couldn't rush this. It was a long journey, and I had to give myself permission to heal. The first project I tackled was the small piece of land Liam had helped me secure. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I spent hours walking around it, imagining what it could become. It wasn't the farm I had lost, but it was a start. The land was overgrown, the soil rough and untended. It was going to take a lot of work, but I was ready for it. The mornings were the hardest. I would wake up early, the quiet of the apartment weighing on me, and I'd think about what my life had been and what it had become. But I wouldn't let myself get lost in the past. I had a new purpose now. I had something to build, something to fight for. The work on the land was slow at first. Clearing the brush, fixing the fence, preparing the soil. It was hard work, but it felt good. For the first time in a long time, I felt useful. I wasn't just sitting around, waiting for something to happen. I was making things happen. As the weeks went on, I began to notice the changes. The land started to look better, the plants I had planted began to grow. I could see the potential in it, and it gave me hope. Maybe this new life wasn't so bad after all. One afternoon, as I was walking back from the land, I saw a familiar car parked in front of my apartment. It was Sage. My heart skipped a beat. She had been calling and texting, but I hadn't been ready to see her yet. I had no idea what to expect from her, but I knew that things were different now. She had apologized, and I had accepted, but there was still so much between us. Still so much left unsaid. I stood there for a moment, unsure whether to approach or go inside. But before I could decide, Sage saw me and waved. I took a deep breath and walked over. "Charlotte," she said, her voice soft but sincere. "I wanted to come by and check on you. See how you're doing." I nodded, a small smile forming on my lips. "I'm doing better. Getting used to everything." Sage hesitated for a moment, then spoke again. "I know things have been hard between us. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. But I want you to know that I'm here. I want to be here for you." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt a pang of something unfamiliar, hope. "I'm not sure what to make of it all yet," I said, my voice careful. "But I appreciate that you're here. I really do." She nodded. "I understand. It's going to take time. But I'm not going anywhere, Charlotte. I want to be part of your life again, if you'll let me." I looked at her for a long moment, unsure of what to say. But in the end, I knew she was trying. She was trying in a way that I hadn't seen before. Maybe we weren't going to fix everything overnight, but I had to admit that there was a chance, maybe a small one, that we could rebuild, piece by piece. "I don't know what the future holds," I said softly, "but I'm willing to try. We'll take it slow." Sage smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "That's all I can ask for." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. A small step forward, the way everything had been for the past few weeks. Slowly, but surely, I was rebuilding. And maybe, just maybe, I was learning how to trust again. I didn't know where this new path would lead, but I was ready to walk it, one step at a time. The pain was still there, but I was no longer letting it control me. I had my land, I had Liam's support, and I had the chance to start over. That was enough. For now, it was enough.